welcome everyone, including those joining us online. My name is Joanne McGuire, and I'm your host for today, and Reverend David is the co-host.
This morning, this Sunday, is our first day of Advent, the first Sunday of Advent. And Advent is, it's the beginning of the Christmas season. And as we approach Christmas, we often hear people speak of preparing the way. And traditionally, Advent is a time of reflection, affirmation, and an exploration of faith, and an inner search of mind and heart. And each week there's a theme for Advent. And Advent guides us to explore what Christmas means to us personally, and to discover what the greatest gift we can give to our family and our friends and the world. And we come to realize that that greatest gift that we can give is ourself. So let us open in prayer. So I invite you to just take a moment to be settled in your seat and to feel relaxed. And I invite you to think about this Christmas season and think about what gifts can you bring to the table this Christmas. What are your gifts that you can share? What are your gifts that you can bless other people with? So I invite you to just hold that thought just for a moment in your hearts and in your minds. And so we do open our hearts and we do open our minds to the presence of Spirit, to the guidance of Spirit, to that Spirit that we live and move and have our being in. And in this moment, we allow ourselves to feel gratitude for this day, gratitude for our spiritual community, gratitude for all of our rich blessings. So we just take a moment and allow ourselves to feel the presence of Spirit and to acknowledge the truth of who we are, to acknowledge that light, that Christ light that dwells within each and every one of us. And help us, loving Spirit, to see that light throughout this week, throughout this month, throughout this year, as in every single person we see. And we pray all of this in the name of the living Christ presence. And so it is. Amen.
Our special music today is a song you've maybe heard before. We always like to sing this around Advent because it is about hope, peace, joy, and love.
Every shadow with
Oh, that was beautiful. What a lovely voice. Thank you so much. You know, we have two themes going on right now. So for the month of November, we have been exploring the power of release or letting go. And then again, like I said, today is the first Sunday of Advent, and we're looking at hope and faith. So my talk title today is Finding the Faith to Let Go. 2 weeks ago, Monday, November the 15th to be exact, I found myself just doing just that, closing my eyes and surrendering. Not once, not twice, but quite a few times during that whole Monday, I found myself taking a deep breath, closing my eyes, and surrendering. Have you ever noticed that life can be stressful at times? Especially this time of year? Have you ever thought that you knew something for sure and you were totally wrong? Have you ever thought that you had everything under control, but you didn't at all? And that's where I found myself Monday, November the 15th. So as you probably know, there's a story that goes with this. This year, I was elected to be a member of the Unity Canada board. And so we set up a work week. My first week working with the board, and I was going to fly into Vancouver, and we were renting an Airbnb in Surrey, and we were going to get to know each other and bond with each other and get as much business, Unity Canada business, done as we could. So I left real early Monday morning because I had made an early flight. The flight was leaving at 8:25, and I got a lift at 6 o'clock so I could be there a couple of hours because, you know, who knows how things are going to be at the airport. So I wanted to be there very, very early. And I had a little problem there's a little bit of stress sort of creeping in because to fly into Canada, I had to have my COVID test results back. And as I got into the lift, I still did not have those the COVID test results back. It wasn't in my email. So I was thinking all the way to the airport, well, let me see. If I don't have my COVID test, then they're not going to let me on the plane. So I said, well, you know, it's going to be okay. I believe everything is going to work out. I affirmed everything was going to work out. So I get to the airport, and I was having trouble checking in. So I go over to Delta, and I ask them to help me check in. And then I find out that my first seeming problem of not having my COVID test back was just the tip of the iceberg. So I found out, and I will say that there was a bit of a shock when I found out. I found out that I had to have a passport, and I don't have a passport. I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, but at one point in time you could use your Nexus card to travel on the plane, but at some point they quit doing that, and I didn't know. And so here I am. I have all my reservations, and I don't have my passport. I still don't have my COVID test results back. And I think at one point in time I might have been a basket case at that time, but actually I felt fine. I felt centered, and I knew that all things would work together for the good. And I believe that, and I affirm that. So what I had to do very quickly, and I got help, and I got it done. I canceled my round-trip tickets from I was going to fly to Vancouver, flying to Seattle, and then catching a plane in Seattle and flying to Vancouver. So I canceled the Vancouver flight round trip, and had them reissue. They had to reissue me the flight tickets to Seattle. So I fly into Seattle, and because there is a 3 hours difference, I got there, before 2 o'clock. I think it was 1:45 in Seattle time that I got there. And I still didn't have my COVID results. And so I had planned on renting a car and then just driving up to Surrey, which is only an hour and a half trip. But I still didn't have my COVID results back. And I kept on checking, and it just wasn't showing anything. And so I kept on waiting and waiting and waiting, and I decided I did not want to drive at night. And by the way, I don't know if you knew about it, you probably do, but there were floods in British Columbia, okay? There were floods. And I mean, I wasn't the only one that was having problems with our group. Several of the people that were going to our Unity Canada board meeting, and were going, they were going to take the ferry, but the ferry was canceled because of the weather. So I mean, all of our good intentions would be there really early. Well, none of us were there very early at all. In fact, I ended up spending the night in Seattle, and then renting a car. And by that evening late, I got my COVID results, and I was negative. And so I was able to go and cross over using my Nexus card and drive to Surrey. Well, I had to be rerouted because it just so happened that Highway 5, which is the highway that would take me up there, there had been mudslides, and so Highway 5 was closed. And so it had been raining all before, and then, but the day that I actually drove, well, 5 had been washed out at one place, so they had to reroute me, but it was a beautiful day. The sun was shining, and it routed me along the coast, and it was a gorgeous drive. And I really enjoy road trips. And so it wasn't raining. I had a beautiful view of the countryside and was going into the farmland and everything. And it was just a beautiful, relaxing drive. So I got there, and as soon as I got there, it started raining again. And then but that was okay because it was a work week. And so we were working, and we were spending a lot of time getting to know each other and bonding and working on things that needed to be done for Unity Canada. And anyway, it was, like I say, we had a really nice time. It did rain during the whole time I was there. But then on Friday, when I had to drive back, it was sunny again. And so I had another beautiful trip. So all things did work together for the good. And I affirm that. And that was... And I don't know, I just came out of that just being really super pumped. So what I've learned after all of these years is that Monday, November the 15th, it made it really, really clear. And that is that even in the most hectic of circumstances, there is a quiet, still center at our very core. A quiet, still center that we can tap into at any time. And when I worked at the hospital as a hospital chaplain, I worked in the emergency room. And during that time, I realized no matter how chaotic it was in that emergency room, and no matter how terrible something was going on, I could tap into that. I could tap into that still point within me. So surrender literally means to stop fighting. Stop fighting with yourself. Stop fighting with the universe and the natural flow of things. Stop resisting and pushing against reality. Stop fighting what is. Stop arguing with what is. Stop complaining. For me, surrender equals complete acceptance of what is, plus faith that all is well, even without my input. And it's not about inaction. It's about taking action from that place of surrender energy. You see, when we struggle and fight and argue with what is, we expend a lot of energy. A lot of energy. And it can wear us out. But when we surrender to what is, accept what is, all of that energy becomes available to us to do what is ours to do. On the website aboutmeditation.com, contemporary spiritual teacher Jeff Carrera describes meditation as a conscious practice of letting go of the mind. That means consciously entering into a space in which we authentically and literally know nothing. The invitation from the great spiritual teachers and writers, both past and present, has been to enter into what has been called the divine mystery. It's also been called the cloud of unknown. For contemporary spiritual teacher Adyashanti, who you've heard me quote on several occasions, he says we can't know the nature of reality with our minds. He says this realization is what opens the way for us. The way to the greatest knowing is through not knowing. Zen master Sunryu Suzuki calls this open-mindedness beginner's mind. And the great mystic St. John of the Cross said, in order to come to the knowledge you have not, you must go by a way which you know not. Let me repeat that. In order to come to the knowledge you have not, you must go by a way in which... As Joseph Campbell pointed out in his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, every hero's journey requires leaving the known, leaving the familiar, and entering into... Over 700 years before the birth of Christ, of Jesus, the prophet Isaiah wrote these words. He said, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." That's from Isaiah 43, 18 through 19. Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. And the past could be 700 years ago, 100 years ago, 10 years ago, 1 year ago, 10 minutes ago, or even 1 minute ago. But the thing is to let it go. Because Spirit is always doing something new. And the invitation is always to step fully and completely into this present moment. As Jeff Carrera points out, he says, we live in a culture in which knowing is preferred above almost everything else. Most of us have an intense aversion, he says, to the uncertainty and insecurity of not knowing. And let's face it, I mean, most of all of us, as soon as we realize that we don't know, we have this tremendous need to find out that sort of arises within us. And knowing feels safe, doesn't it? Not knowing feels frightening. It feels dangerous. Carrera says that when we meditate, we enter into the unknown by letting go of the mind. And this journey from knowing, not to knowing, necessitates a profound faith in life because it requires us to give up control. And that is what is so terrifying, giving up control. Carrera reminds us that without a tremendous degree of faith, it's impossible to let everything be as it is without any attempts to control or manipulate our experience in any way. What you need to have faith in is the inherent goodness of life. You need to know that it's safe to give up control. If you don't feel safe giving up control, if you are in any way, to any degree, convinced that you need to defend yourself against life, then it will be impossible to let go of control. It will be impossible to let things be as they are. I want to read you one of Einstein's most famous quotes because it fits in so well here, and it is as relevant as it is today as it was, or even more relevant than it was 100 years ago when he said it. He said, this is Einstein speaking, he said, "I think the most important question facing humanity is the universe a friendly place?" This is the first and most basic questions all people must answer for themselves. For if we decide that the universe is an unfriendly place, then we will use our technology, our scientific discoveries, and our natural resources to achieve safety and power by creating bigger walls to keep out the unfriendliness and bigger weapons to destroy all that which is unfriendly. And I believe that we are getting to a place where technology is powerful enough that we may either completely isolate or destroy ourselves as well in this process. If we decide that the universe is neither friendly nor unfriendly and that God is essentially playing dice with the universe, then we are simply victims to the random toss of the dice, and our lives have no real purpose or meaning. But if we decide that the universe is a friendly place, then we will use our technology, our scientific discoveries, and our natural resources to create tools and models for understanding that universe. Because power and safety will come through understanding its workings and its motives. Einstein ends with another very famous quote when he says, "God does not play dice with the universe."
Okay, now we invite you all to stand up and let's open our hearts and minds in gratitude as we close by speaking out loud or silently to ourselves the love offering prayer, followed by the prayer for protection. Divine love in me and through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And I will say the first part for a prayer of protection, and then if you would follow with the second part. The light of God surrounds us. I am light.
The love of God enfolds us.
I am love.
The power of God protects us.
I am power.
The presence of God watches over us.
I am presence.
Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. And my friends, you truly are. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week.